here for Partnership for Community Action, AARP, and DeKalb County Tax Commissioner's Office. We would like to ask everyone to make sure that you put all your questions in the chat. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Today, we're also going to have a survey in the chat. Sharon Haley will be putting a link in the chat for the survey. And we would like for every participant, if possible, that's on, to answer the questions in the survey before we finish up today. Thank you. We're going to start off with Ms. Hillary Thomas. While a student at Spelman College, Hillary began her 20-plus year career, nonprofit career, working with the Atlanta Bar Association. After graduation, she became a teacher with Atlanta Public Schools. Hillary worked on her Master's of Public Administration and Nonprofit Management degree at the University of Baltimore while working for the DC Public School System. Hillary began with AARP Experience Corp as a field manager and later became program director. She transitioned to the AARP Georgia State Office as their program specialist and was then promoted to senior program specialist. Hillary is now the Associate State Director of Advocacy and Outreach with a focus on LGBT outreach, fraud prevention, and federal lobbying. Okay, Hillary.
Thank you, Brenda. I am going to share my screen briefly, and Brenda has some resources to share with all of you all via email at the end of this. So just wanted to make sure that you all had some resources around finances and caregiving. I'm sorry, it's not letting me get to it won't let me get to the area to share the slideshow. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All right, so just a couple of tips for caregivers around finances. So I sent Brenda over a link for our tax aid. So tax aid does prepare taxes for people free of charge. And just in case anyone didn't know, when you are a tax preparer, you go to the same course. So the branded resources that do all the commercials, as well as our tax aid volunteers, they all have to attend the same courses. So these are people who are tax preparers and have been trained to be tax preparers, but they do your taxes for free. And it's not about your age, it's about the type of tax return that you have. So if you have several businesses or multiple income properties, they might not be able to do your taxes for free, but it's always worth reaching out to them to see if they can. So Brenda has that link and she will email that over to you. But she also has this it's not a worksheet, it's more of a one-pager around financial tips for caregivers during COVID. And, we are still in this COVID, I don't know if they want to call it an endemic now, as opposed to a pandemic, but, things can be heightened. And it's justifiable for all the stress that we are being faced with. And our finance problems can be heightened during COVID as well. You're at home, bills can be a little bit higher. Maybe someone has moved in with you as far as you taking care of them in your home as opposed to them being in a facility. So things are a little bit different during this time. So you really have to stay on top of things in a different way. So what the first thing we want you to do is just to focus on what you can control when it comes to your money. Take an inventory of your monthly expenses and eliminate anything that is unnecessary at this time. And when you and your loved one's circumstances change, you can take a look at the impact on your budget and just see where you are at that time. And, look at some different ways to explore areas to lower your costs. So review your insurance policies and premiums, explore affordable options for coverage. Be sure that your own necessities are covered first, such as food, shelter, insurance, transportation, as well as any expenses that you may pay out of pocket to care for your loved one, things like groceries and personal care products, medications, etc. Try and explore the monthly cost of prescription medicine delivery. That can help with some cost cutting there, and determine if it's cheaper to cut cable and use a streaming service. Those are some things that can help. Something else that can help when you're looking at prescriptions is look at things like the Good RX. I know sometimes if you use your insurance first, and then maybe for the next time after your insurance might run out on a prescription, you can use the Good RX and you might be able to get a discount that way. And you can also do some things like look at a 90-day prescription as opposed to getting 30 days. So when you pay your copay, you pay for the 90 days. And sometimes that will save you money there. And during this time, make sure that you're not taking on any additional financial risk. So if you want to considering altering your financial course, such as managing you or your loved one's current investments, you may want to consult with a financial professional who can guide you during this time of financial validity and beyond. But don't feel like you have to pay for financial advice. There are a lot of free tools that can help make a revamped plan. So, and I've got a screen with some resources at the end. Evaluate your current medication management. That's what I was talking about the 90-day. So inquire if you or your loved one's medical providers will authorize 90 days of needed medicines and medical supplies, and see if your insurance providers offer delivery service for your medications or will do telemedicine visits to extend your refills. Plan grocery shopping and meals for your loved one. Create a meal plan or shopping list and take into consideration your loved one's special dietary needs. And stick to this budget and buy groceries for 10 to 14 days max. If needed, ask family members or neighbors to help with groceries or grocery delivery or meal prep. And explore whether there is a Meals on Wheels or other delivery program near your loved one. That can kind of help with some of the management of this as well. And have a conversation about finances, and an honest conversation. This time of financial anxiety is a good time to bring your care recipient and other family members into the financial conversation and talk about the changes to finances and understand how the impact of the crisis has affected you and your loved ones, and work on some changes on your budget together. Work on a plan to reduce and manage expenses together. And that can really help. Sometimes just being honest and giving people a clear picture of what's going on with your finances really allows people to help where they can or figure out ways to cut as well. And so the last slide is some resources. If you go to aarp.org/caregiving, they've got a really good resource center for you around caregiving as a whole, as well as the aarp.org/money map. And that's a really good step-by-step action plan for dealing with unplanned expenses. And then if you want to do something around budgeting, it's everydollar.com. And for financial coaching, you can go to greenpath.com. For credit counseling, though, we recommend you go to nfcc.org. And then for the meals, that is mealsonwheelsamerica.org. And that is it for me.
Well, thank you, Hillary. That was great information. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So if you just hang around, we'll have questions. We'll have Q&A at the end. Next up will be Miss Christy Huell. Christy is the Director of Property Tax for the DeKalb County Tax Commissioner's Office. Christy is responsible for overseeing the entire Property Tax Department, which includes the Property Tax and Delinquency Collections Division. Prior to joining DeKalb County, Christy was the Property Manager Administrator for the City of Kennesaw. Christy graduated from Shorter University with a concentration in business management and has more than 20 years of government property taxation experience. Christy is a Georgia native who enjoys reading and watching professional football and basketball. Christy?
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I have my team on here, David Butler and Belinda Stuckey. The three of us will kind of do the presentation on today. You can go ahead and get started. Tax bill and homestead exemption presentation for the DeKalb County Tax Commissioner's Office. Again, the presenters today will be myself, David Butler, our support analyst, and Belinda Stuckey, our property tax senior. Next. For the sake of time, I'll kind of skim through so we can kind of get to the bolts and pieces in the end, the kind of the good part of it. The different county departments that we work with to complete the property tax project each year is the GIS department. They update the ownership, the mapping, and the addresses. We also work with the property appraisals department. They determine your value from year to year. We work with the counties and cities, CIDs, and so forth to prepare the budgets and millage rates. And of course, the Board of Commissioners that approves the budget and millage rates for the CAB. The Tax Commissioner's Office, under the direction of Mr. Irvin Johnson, our office here, we compile the information from all the various departments so that we can put together the tax bill that's normally mailed in August. We also go through a rigorous check with the Department of Revenue. They approve our county digest from year to year. So once they give us the approval, we can go in and mail our tax statements. Next. Understanding the property tax process. As I stated before, we work with various departments in order to pull this off on a yearly basis. Of course, the cities and counties, CIDs, and the school board, they all set their tentative budgets. They have to advertise that information in the newspaper so you can attend those hearings so that you can come in and give your input. Once that's done, they approve the millage rates and they approve the budget for the year. This is done on a yearly basis. So as a citizen of DeKalb, and if you live within the city limits, you have the right to voice your opinion regarding the mill rate, regarding the various things that are going on in the community and anything that's related to your tax bill. Once that's done, the Tax Commissioner's Office, our office, we compile all the information. We add your homestead exemption information on there. And then we go in and we add your street lights and so forth. And we submit that information to the Department of Revenue. They approve the bills and then we mail them out. So as I stated before, we work with various departments in order to pull this off on a yearly basis. Next. What is a homestead exemption? That's the magic question. A homestead exemption is a savings towards your annual property taxes, and it can save you up to 1/3 of your taxes. We do have your basic exemption, which everyone in Georgia who only occupies their home qualifies for. And then we do have the special exemptions, such as the senior exemption, is a disabled resident exemption, and the 100% disabled veterans exemption that we have available. Next. Homestead exemption rules. Of course, as I stated, you must own and occupy your home as your legal resident as of January 1 of the taxable year. It must be your primary resident. It cannot be rental property. And your vehicles must be registered at the home. Of course, the tax commissioner, he's responsible for the motor vehicles and the property tax. So we can see if the when we look at our system, if your car has been registered at that address. Also, we have special exemptions that are available, but they're based on income and not just a single person's income, but the household income. And again, we have age-based exemptions and they're based on income. So we ask that you come in to see if you qualify from year to year if you reach that checkpoint. Next. How to apply for a homestead exemption. Of course, our basic homestead exemptions are online at decalbtax.org. You can mail, and we do not advise that you mail at this time due to the postal system debacle. However, if you choose to mail, that's fine. We honor United States postmark. Of course, you can come in person or you can place the information in our Dropbox. Next. Appointments and wait time. So of course, we have the click to skip, where you can set your appointment prior to coming. And when you arrive at that designated time, you can skip the line. That way you don't have to wait in line. So we do have that in place. We have where you can make your payments online. You can read information about our delinquent tax department and our motor vehicles tax department. So we have all of this information out here at your fingertips to review at your leisure. Next. Belinda will take over from here.
Thank you, Chrissy. Good afternoon, everyone. Applicant determination. As Chrissy mentioned in one of her previous slides, this is simply stating that you have to own and reside in your home. Whether you're married, living with your spouse, whether you're unmarried and permanently maintaining household, you're a divorced individual, you're a widow, any of these points in life, you're welcome to apply for your exemption. So that applicant determination only specifies that you have to own and reside in the home. Next. Special exemption required documents. The documents that are required, as Christy mentioned, the prerequisite is that you have to have your homestead in place. At the time that you come in, we can apply for your homestead as well as your senior exemption, but we do need your Georgia driver's license or ID, your state and federal tax return, your most recent for the year that you're applying for. This past year that just closed out, we were taking the 2020 and 2021. That federal, your 1040, we needed page 1, and your state document 500, we need page 2 and 3. If you do not file taxes, we are accepting your Social Security benefit statement that comes out to you once a year. That's your 1099. Proof of 100% disability for our veterans. If our veterans are coming in, we need your letter from the VA. Next. The application deadline is April the 1st. So we closed out for 2022 unless you had a extension. Veterans can come in and apply year round for their benefit as long as they already have a homestead exemption in place. But the deadline to apply for any exemption, basic homestead or senior, is April the 1st. Next. As I mentioned, if you've already come into the office and there was something that was needed in addition to what you brought into us, we provided you with a letter giving you an extended period of time to get that information back to us. Those are the only extensions that we're honoring, or those are for the taxpayers who've already come in to see us and needed additional time to bring additional documents back. So that's where we would provide an extent, would have provided an extension. The other case would have been if there was an ownership update delay in a purchased property that met that January 1st deadline. Next. Homestead exemption hierarchy. That homestead exemption hierarchy means that there are levels to the homestead exemption. Age 62 to 64 is the first tier of exemption. Age 65 to 70 is going to be our second tier of exemption. 70 and older is an additional tier of exemption. These tiers David will go into in more detail with regards to the level of savings that you receive for each exemption tier. And he'll also go into detail with regards to the H4 and the H9, the best exemptions that we offer for those age groups and categories. Keeping in mind that the exemption, the senior exemption, is built on an age and income-based exemption. It's a retirement-built age and income-based exemption. David will definitely go into more detail when he goes into his slides. Next. For our disabled veterans, We also have exemptions in place. Again, a basic homestead needs to be in place. You have to meet the basic criteria and have your basic homestead in place. But we have the veteran benefit, that's the H10 and the H5. For the H10, veterans 65 and older, we do need your proof of income. So when you come in, please provide us with your state and federal tax return, along with your letter from the VA and your Georgia driver's license, so that we can help expedite the process for you for your benefits as well. Nick? And at this point, I'll be turning it over to David Butler.
Thank you, Belinda. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Butler. I'm the technical support analyst for the property tax department for the tax commissioner's office. So I'm going to go over, once you've been approved for a homestead exemption, what that means for you. So on this chart, I have the different county homestead exemptions broken out and what they're actually awarding you. I'll go into a sample of a tax bill and some different breakdowns and the formula involved in it. But on this chart, we're starting, on the top line, we have the basic homestead exemption. I hope everyone that resides at their property, especially if you live in DeKalb County, that you at least have the basic homestead exemption. If you just purchased a home last year, I hope that you came in before April 1st and have that homestead on your property. Just with that basic homestead, that can save you around a third on your taxes overall. What it does is it's taking $10,000 off your assessed value. It's taking $12,500 off your assessed value for school tax. And some of the other special exemptions like the seniors, disabled veterans, some of those are taking all the school tax off or more of the county taxes off. It just depends on which one you qualify for. So all of them have different savings depending on what group you fall into. But all the seniors, like Linda said, do have an income requirement. We recommend anyone at 62 to come in, apply to see where you're at, because you might not qualify at that time, but you might qualify next year or the year after that, knowing when you're going to retire. So it just depends. But I would recommend anyone 62 and over to come in, bring in your income documents and see if you qualify at that point. If not, when you might. If you're in the District of Atlanta, so you paid separate city taxes for Atlanta and you're in DeKalb, they have a separate homestead exemptions that are available on their side because they collect the school tax. They offer their own senior exemptions and disabled veteran exemptions. They're at pretty much the same ages. They don't have a 70 and up, and they have different income requirements. So it's slightly different than the counties, and they do not exempt out school tax, but they do remove a good portion off your assessed value on those school taxes. So to explain how your taxes are calculated, every year you're going to get an assessment notice at the end of May. You'll probably get in the mail like the first week of June. That's from the appraiser's office. So let's say your property value is $100,000. The county is going to take 40% of that. That's your assessed value, or taxable value. So the county is going to calculate the taxes based off of 40,000. So we're going to take 40,000 and multiply it by the millage rates that each taxing authority has voted on and determined over the summer. Once we get that gross tax amount, after multiplying your assessed value times the millage rates, we then have to subtract out your homestead savings. So with a homestead, you receive assessment freeze savings, you get constitutional homestead savings, and e-host credit. So on this slide, I have a sample of a tax bill from Brookhaven with a basic homestead exemption. So the way you know what kind of exemption you have, in the top right corner, we put the exemption code. So anytime you're awarded an exemption, if you get a special exemption like a senior, you'll get an award letter from our office notifying you what exemption code you've been assigned. That exemption code will stay on your property as long as you own and reside at the property. You do not have to renew or reapply to keep your exemption, as long as you maintain all the requirements for a homestead. So just real quick, the total appraised value on this property is 151,100. We take 40% of that, 60,440. And that's the assessed value. That's the taxable assessment. So if you look in the chart going from left to right, we break down all the different taxing authorities. And then the next column is that assessed value. We have to multiply that by the millage rate to get the gross tax amount. We then have to subtract out all the savings that this property receives with the basic homestead exemption. The frozen exemption is we take the prior year's assessed value from the year that you're awarded. So let's say this property value was awarded a homestead in 2020. We took the 2019 assessed value and have captured that value. So going forward, all the county taxes will be adjusted to 59,040. You can see that value in the top right under base assessment freeze. And the difference between that and the current assessed is your net frozen exemption. So if there is no difference or the current assessed value is lower than that base assessment freeze, you would not have any savings. You only will see savings in that column if your frozen value is lower than the current assessed value. And that's really just to offset inflation and increases in values. So your county taxes can get adjusted back to when you purchased the property. It does not apply to school tax. Most cities have a freeze, but not all of them. So you'd have to either contact our office or your city to find out if they offer that. You can also see it on your tax bill. But the constitutional homestead exemption on that previous slide, I showed kind of what amount you're getting off your assessed value. So a basic homestead with the county gives you 10,000 off your assessed value. So if you take 10,000 times the millage rate, you'll get your savings. There was no county bond in this year, so there was nothing to take off there. It does not apply to fire though. So it's applying to your county operation, hospital, county bond. So the school tax is you get 12,500 off. So if you multiply that by the millage rate, you would get your constitutional homestead savings for your school tax. So even though you just have a basic, you're still saving on school tax. The e-host credit is the equalized homestead option sales tax. That is based off of a percentage that's determined by the budget department every year. And in this year, it was 100%, meaning if it was 0%, this property would have had to pay $446.66 in county operations and $17.46 in hospital. But since the savings with the e-host was 100%, it took off all the remaining amount. Currently, it only applies to county operation and hospitals, and that percentage can change from year to year. So after you subtract out all your savings from the gross tax amount, you're left with the net tax due. And on this property, it does have a special assessment, the stormwater, which came out to $70.50. No homestead savings applies to your special assessment. So that's like sanitation, stormwater, street light, speed bump. Those are at a fixed rate determined by those departments. So if you add those up, you get your final net tax due. The county takes half of that and you're billed in 2 installments. So we send out our bills around August 15th. You'll have 45 days to pay the first half, which falls on September 30th, and another 45 to pay the second half, November 15th. If you're paying in full, that has to be received by September 30th. So this is again, pretty much the basic formula. We take your assessed value times the millage rate, gives you the gross tax, and then we have to subtract out your freeze, constitutional homestead, and EHO savings. That final amount is your net tax due. The applications, so if you live in Decatur, Chambly, or Stone Mountain, and you're a senior, you have to apply for a senior exemption with their department and ours, so that you get the savings with the county and the city. If you have not done that, you may not have savings with those departments where you might have it with the county. The burden of proof is with the applicant. So if there's any documents missing from what you turned in, you have to provide them for us. We can't go out and retrieve any income documents or anything like that for you. All of that has to be submitted to us. If we don't receive an application, we can't approve an exemption. So you do have to submit your application prior to April 1st in order for us to process, approve, do anything with your exemption. We also cannot transfer homestead exemption. So if you sell a property and move to the home across the street, that exemption has to be removed and you have to reapply for exemption on the new property. Also, like I said, you don't have to reapply or renew exemption. If you've been awarded, let's say the H4 senior exemption, which is the highest senior exemption, as long as you still qualify for a homestead, you meet all the requirements, you live and own the property and reside at it, all your ID, vehicles stay at that property, you do not have to come back and renew that homestead. You don't have to reapply. It'll stay on your property as long as you're there. Now, if you want to come in and apply for a better exemption, you would definitely need to do that before April 1st of the year that you're trying to get it. And the homestead exemption is not automatic. We have to review and process every single exemption for the county. So if you're applying for a special exemption, we go over each one of those to determine the best exemption for you. And it depends on what district you're in. There's a lot of determination in this. If you have any questions about your personal exemption or what you might qualify for, contact our office or come in. I recommend coming in with your income documents. That way we can actually see them. It's hard to say an exact amount that you earn that will make you qualify. So that's it for our presentation. We have I think a little time for questions. Is that correct?
Yeah, finish the thing, huh?
Q&A will be after
Okay.
everybody finishes. Ashley Blunt is coming up next. Thank you so much. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Good, very good information. Excellent information. Thank you. Next up, we have Ashley Blunt with Partnership for Community Action. Ashley is the Program Operations Director at Partnership for Community Action. She helps to oversee the running of Partnership for Community Action programs and helps to ensure staff and clients have a positive experience when dealing with the programs. Ashley has worked for Partnership for Community Action for over 10 years in many different capacities, including energy coordinator. Ashley is an advocate reader and mother of 3. She enjoys walking. While she's a native of New York, she has now begun to call Georgia her home for the past 12 years. She also recently graduated from the University of Phoenix with a Bachelor's of Management. Ashley Blunt.
Hi, thank you for that. Give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Did you say 612? I did. I usually dial the 888 number 1. Try the 888-270. You on your cell phone? Yeah, try what now? 888. 27. To what?
Can you
Can you
see that?
kindly mute yourself If you are not a speaker, thank you.
So I'm hoping that everybody is somewhat familiar with our organization, but if you're not, let me let you know, our mission is to empower and advocate for individuals and families in DeKalb, Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale counties to attain self-sufficiency and improve quality of life through case management, crisis intervention, and youth development in partnership with the community. Okay. This is a small snapshot to let you know this is the problem that we are trying to address. An estimated 187,689 individuals across 48,000 households were identified as living in poverty through the regions that we serve. And we do, just again, I know this is more DeKalb County focused, but we do service DeKalb, Gwinnett, Newton, Rockdale, and Walton County. So is that. So how we do the services that we do. So one of our programs is our Family Support and Emergency Service Program. This program offers utility assistance, rent and mortgage assistance, case management, skills training, temporary lodging, and first month's rent and security deposit. Okay. Appointments for this program are only available on the first and third Monday of every month. So we do have limited appointments, and sometimes it can be hard to get appointments. The other program is our energy assistance program. We have our low income home energy assistance program for heating, which normally starts in November for senior citizen households 65 and older, and December for the general public. That is actually still currently going on right now. That program can help with electric, natural gas, propane, or whatever it is that your home heating source is. As of April 1st, we just started our cooling program, which is specifically for electric bills. And with both of those two programs, if you qualify, you can get anywhere between $500, $400, and $350 towards your bill. Because we still have AARP funds, which is essentially that COVID-19 additional funding that we were able to get. A lot of people are getting two payments. So they are getting their normal heating payment, but they're also getting a match from ARPA, and that will be available as long as funding is available for that program. So we do see that going into most of our cooling clients as well. And then the last program that we have is fairly new. It just started this season, and that is the low income home water assistance program. And this program can pay $200 to $300 on your water bill. If you are in arrears, it can pay $3,500 in up to $3,500 in past due amount for that. Now we are having some issues with some of the vendors, so we do ask that you go ahead and apply, but there are some vendors that are not working with us, but I think we've got most of DeKalb County vendors, so it really shouldn't be too much of an issue for you. Okay. And I put these up. One is just for our Facebook page. We do put updates and things like that up there for as things come up. And then the other is our website, which you can go to make appointments for our energy assistance program. So I got for you. And I'll be happy for any questions if you guys are ready for them.
Thank you, Ashley. Very good information. And I'm sure we have tons of questions in chat. So I'm going to turn that over to Sharon Haley. Sharon Haley will be working with the questions in chat.
Well, we did have some questions in chat, but it looks like the tax people, I think one of the things is, in case people haven't looked at chat, it's one of the questions is, once you apply for senior homestead exemption, do you need to go back as age increases to get additional savings? And the answer is, if you feel you may qualify for a better exemption, you may come in to apply. Okay. And then there is, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Also, if you have an H4, that's the best senior exemption that you can get. So if you have an H4, we recommend that you do not, try to get a better exemption unless you're a disabled veteran or something like that. But if you've had anything less than that, we recommend you come in to see if you qualify.
Okay. Now, one of the questions, and this wasn't in the chat, but you were saying that it was based on income and age for the homestead exemption. What is the max, or how is that done? Do is there a maximum income that you have to have depending on your house income, your household income?
Each one of the senior exemptions is based off of different ages with different income limits. They're calculated within our office for the majority of them. So from 62 to 70, it's based off of a Georgia net income. So that's a calculation we do where it's not your adjusted gross income. So it's not a line item on your tax return that you can point to. We're allowing a certain amount in retirement, counting all your other income, and then taking out some of your state deductions. So that's mainly why it's best to come in our office, bring in your income documents so that we can review them to determine your Georgia net income.
Okay.
Now, the clearest one right now is the H9 70 and up. That is based off of your adjusted gross income. So this year's limit is 96,160. So as long as your adjusted gross income, and this is household income. I don't know if we went over that, but all special exemptions, any exemption that's based off of income is your household income. So if you have anyone that's claiming residency at your property, we need their income as well.
Okay, so basically, the only way to find out what the max income is to actually have you to review that. There's not a list that says if you make $60,000 a year, you're not eligible for an exemption if you're 80 years old.
So except for that H9, that's the only one that's based off of a line item that you would be able to point to on your tax return. The others have a Georgia net income of 10,000 or 15,000 or under, but I don't want to discourage people with that number because you could earn, a lot more than that and still qualify because of our calculation. So we would be happy to sit down with anyone. It's difficult to do over the phone or without reviewing that individual's tax return because every single tax return is different. I don't want to discourage anyone. I advise any senior that has not applied for a senior exemption to come in our office and apply.
Yeah. And it's an algorithm. So we take the information, we put it in our system. And like David stated, we don't want to discourage you or say anything that, or misquote or so forth. So we just ask you to bring it in, let the system decide what exemption you qualify. We're just merely putting it in and it tells us the information. So I think that's the safe way to do it instead of saying, oh, I made this. And then we say you don't qualify, but you really do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Blunt, there are several people asking for contact information for LIHEAP.
Yes, I put their phone numbers. I put the phone number for our organization on there. I'm also put my email address in the chat. So if anybody has any direct questions that is more personal, I would be more than happy to answer them that way versus, answering them for the masses. Hazel, yes, when we do start seeing clients face to face again, we will start visiting senior sites and things again. Right now, we are still, per our funders, we are still operating under the pandemic policy, which means we are not seeing any clients face to face. So we do appreciate, I know you are one of the people that help us gather the senior documents that come to your site and, you know, things like that. So we greatly appreciate that. So we are still doing that for the senior sites in DeKalb County. For you guys that we have a partnership with, I know like Brenda and a few others that may be on here. You guys have been collecting the documents for us and then submitting them to us, and that has been fantastic for us to keep helping the seniors. And I think
Okay.
that was all of the questions.
Wait a minute, but before you go, Ms. Blunt, there are some people who have joined us on the telephone. So can you give your number and your email address so they can write that down?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
the phone number for the organization, and this is what you would call if you're just calling to try to make an appointment, is 404-537-4300. And it's option 2 for the Energy Assistance Program. I will say, if you are computer savvy and you are able to go online and make yourself an appointment yourself, that is the quickest way to do it, because we do always have long wait times during the beginning of our program. If you would like to go online to make your own appointment, it is www.pcaction.org. Again, that's www.pcaction.org. And you can go onto our website to make yourself an appointment for the cooling program or the water assistance program. Please note that this month is strictly for seniors 65 years and older. So that means everyone who is currently living in the household has to be either a senior citizen or a minor 17 and under. Anybody else would have to apply during the general public period. So if you are a senior, but you live with maybe your son or daughter who is in their 30s, your household would not actually be able to qualify until May. And
We
then
have a right.
sorry,
Okay, go ahead. No,
I
I
was
was
just going to say my email address is just ashley.blunt@pcaction.org.
Okay, we have a raised hand. Cynthia, you have something?
Yes, thank you, Sharon. I noticed on the homestead slide that only one homestead exemption can be applied, even if you own a different property, own another property, I should say, in a different state. Is that because you must reside at the residence 100% of the time, or can it be, what if you're a snowbird and you're 50-50? I mean, are there any other stipulations?
So it has to be, like we said, in your primary domicile. So the address that's on your ID, that's your legal residence. That's where you're filing your income tax. I know some people do the 50-50, they're snowbirds. However, your legal residence, what's on your driver's license or where you file your taxes, the address you use. So yes, it's only one homestead that can be applied for. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I see a question, and it's about the H4F on the assessment. Someone, Ms. Williams, wants to know what is the H4F on the assessment? Excuse me.
Want to take that balloon, David? Mm-hmm.
The H4F is the highest senior exemption you can receive. If you are unsure of whether you have the H4F, you can pull one of your previous tax bills, assessment notice. You can go to our website and pull up your property, and under exemption, you'll see a code next to that. They'll all start with an H, and then a 1, a 3, a 4, 6, 9. All those are the different types of exemptions that we offer. If you have H4 or H4F, that's as high as it gets. And you don't have to come back and see if you qualify for anything higher. That's as high as it gets.
Another question. Hazel Hazel asked, once the center opens up again, will you guys start coming back in, or will it still be pretty much the way it is now?
Once we are no longer under the pandemic policy, and that will be determined by our funders, yes, we will go back out and see clients again, because right now we're able to do what we're doing.
Okay.
Because our signatures are not required. So that.
Let me see. And did you put your contact number in for the property tax team?
Yes, we
Is your
did.
contact, it says there? Okay, good, because somebody asked for that as well.
Yes, we put our
I would
contact.
ask, yes, I would ask again, because there are some people on the telephone, if you could just give your number out so they can write it down. Yeah,
Okay,
You're
it's
looking at me.
404.
Property tax.
thank you.
Yes, it is
Okay.
404-298-4000, or you may email us at prop, that's PROP tax, that's all one word, prop tax at DeKalbCountyGA.gov. And I'll say the phone number one more time. It's 404-298-4000. Any one of our team members can assist you with any of your questions, just in case you didn't want to disclose the information to the masses. So we're here to help.
Does anyone have any questions that's on and that haven't been answered? If you do, you can go ahead and raise your hand if you didn't put it in chat, or if you don't know how to put it in chat. I think we've answered everyone's question. Has everyone's question been answered so far? Okay, we also have a survey on the chat. And if you guys, just 5 questions, and they're yes or no. And if you guys will go on and answer those questions right quick, we really would appreciate it, because that will help us out for future events that we will be having. If there are no more questions, we must wrap it up and say thank you so much to everyone who's on. We would like to thank Hillary from AARP, Christy Hewitt and her team from DeKalb County Tax Association, and Ashley Blunt from Partnership for Community Action. Thank you so much. Everyone did such a great job, and we really appreciate you. Thanks again.
Thank
So
you.
until next week,
Not a
we have
problem.
another session coming up next week. And we look forward to seeing everybody on next week for our next, that will be the second session of our caregiver conference. And then we have a third session the next Wednesday, and a fourth session wrapping everything up on the last Wednesday. So, and all of that is in the Lou Walker newsletter, or it's on the web page as well. So you can go to the web page or the newsletter, and we would like for everyone on here to join us. Thank you. And we will now say goodbye.